Imagine this. There's a professor at your university that goes by the name of Professor Infrastructure. Professor Infrastructure teaches one class, and he allows 16 students to enroll in this course. The students go through the quarter, the 10 weeks, and at the end of the course, they're not very happy because only 3 of them passed the class. 1 person got a D minus, 6 people got a D, 5 people got a D plus, 3 people got a C plus, and 1 person got a B. Now you guys are probably thinking, Professor Infrastructure isn't a very good professor, and you're right. In this scenario, I'm actually not talking about an actual professor or an actual students. Professor Infrastructure represents America, and the 16 students represent the 16 subcategories of our nation's infrastructure. In this speech, I will be discussing why an increase in the federal gas tax will help improve America's infrastructure. My justification for this is that, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers 2017 Infrastructure Report Card, the ASCE gave the United States infrastructure an overall rating of a D+. Some definitions that I'm going to be discussing are gas tax and infrastructure. Infrastructure is the fundamental facilities and systems that is necessary for society to be able to communicate and transport. And gas tax is currently it is at the federal level is 18.4 cents for gasoline and then 24.4 cents for diesel. My 3 claims for this speech are that the federal gas tax can be allocated to states to improve transit systems. I focus on transit systems because that is the rating, that is the one subcategory that got a D minus, which is very low. My second claim is that the current gas tax is not providing sufficient funds to be able to upkeep with our current infrastructure. And my third claim is that an increase in the federal gas tax will help fund an infrastructure plan that is currently in the works and will improve our nation's overall infrastructure. So to go into my first claim, the federal gas tax can be allocated to states to use for improvements in failing transit systems. Currently it's ranked at a D minus. According to a Time magazine article that I read that stated the 20 best and worst cities for transit, Riverside, San Bernardino ranked as number 2 for the worst transit system in America. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually from Riverside, and over this past summer, I had to commute from Riverside to Anaheim, which is a 35-mile commute, not very long, but I used the Metrolink system here in Southern California, and I commuted for about 3.5 hours round trip every single day. Now, if you take into account the 40,000 people that utilize the Metrolink every single day, that's about 800,000 hours wasted just commuting to and from work every single week, which is a lot of hours. My second claim is that the current gas tax is not providing sufficient funds to help upkeep our current growing infrastructure. The gas tax has not increased since 1993. Now, for all college students, I'm pretty sure all of you know what inflation is. If a price does not increase since 1993 and is supposed to help fund something, it's not going to be able to help sufficiently fund whatever that is. In this case, the gas tax is not helping sufficiently fund our infrastructure, which is what its purpose is. My third and final claim is that an increase in the federal gas tax will help the infrastructure plan that is currently in the works and will help improve our overall infrastructure. According to the Trump administration's proposed infrastructure plan, $100 billion is currently going to be a matching fund for states. What this means is that there will be $100 billion set to the side to allocate to states if they decide to allocate funds to their local and state level infrastructure. Hopefully this will help encourage states to allocate more of their funds to infrastructure because currently there's not a lot of funds going to infrastructure. So in conclusion, the majority of us in this room would be positively affected by the allocations of the gas tax. There is currently a plan in the works for improving infrastructure via the Trump administration, but there does need to be money raised to be allocated to this plan. Our current gas tax is failing us since it has not increased since 1993. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, Carlee, the proposition's identified, although it is phrased inside of a question, so you want to be a little bit careful about that. I like the attention device of the professor infrastructure. I think I kind of enjoyed that little metaphor or allegory that you're telling us, and it works pretty effectively at setting up the topic and the controversy here. Your first point is that the federal gas tax could be allocated to do these kinds of things. That's not really controversial. That's what it's for. So the question is, how much money are we getting now? How much do we need? How much less are we getting than we need? That's kind of the assumption that there is less money coming in than we are supposed to have or that we need to have. And I think that that's where there's a little bit of a problem in your argument. It's a little vague as to how much money is going to fix all of these systems. The Trump plan calls for $100 billion in spending, but that's matching money, so I assume the states have to supply, let's say, an equal amount, another $100 billion. Would $200 billion fix the infrastructure the way that you suggest it needs to be fixed? In particular, focusing on the transportation infrastructure, which is perfectly fine. That's a good way to focus on that particular point. The second point says that what we're getting from the gas tax is insufficient. And your only argument here is that the amount of money, that the amount of the tax has not changed since that time period. I assume that it's remained relatively static based on the number of gallons that are sold. That's 18 cents a gallon or 24 cents a gallon, depending on its diesel. That, by the way, doesn't tell us anything about what the state taxes are on those particular issues, and those things may have changed in that time period. One of the other things that might support your argument is the notion that gas mileage has improved. So one of the ways we've hurt ourselves is by having cars that get better gas mileage, because that means then we collect less tax, that we have less available to pay for infrastructure repairs. So I think there's an argument to be made here that fits that. It just needs to be developed a little bit. And we don't have any totals on any of these things. I mean, that doesn't seem like it would be a hard number to find. How much money did the federal gas tax bring in last year? And did it all get allocated? That's just basic factual data, so that should be something that would be easy to demonstrate. One of the things that you use as an example is your personal experience on the traveling the metro line 35 miles, having a 3.5-hour trip each day. That's not one way. I assume that's both ways, but yeah, it's still a big pain in the tail end. But there's not any explanation about what would have been different had there been more money available. I don't know if we needed more trains, more lines. It's a little unclear. It sounds like I understand that Riverside has ranks at the bottom. That was a good piece of information that you had. But does it rank at the bottom because it doesn't have enough train service, or is it something else? It's not quite clear on this. And since that's the only example that you have of how this transportation system is problematic, the amount of time that people spend having to go from point A to point B, the question then is, what would fix that? How much money is it going to take to make more trains available or move people around a little bit faster? That was, I think, a little unclear. I like the general presentation of the speech. I think you do a good job speaking to us. Like I said, I like the opening. You do want to work a little bit on the exit line, though. Okay, thank you.